South African prisons are overcrowded with over 22,000 foreign nationals in our jails. This raises questions about immigration policies, crime and the justice system. Now, joining us to discuss this is Dr. Vusumuzi Sibanda, President of the African Diaspora Global Network. Dr. Sibanda, appreciate your time this afternoon. Now, in your view, what are the main reasons for the high number of foreign nationals in South Africa's prisons?
Well, good afternoon and good afternoon to the viewers. I think obviously that the fact that there are a lot of people that are in prison that are of foreign origin is obviously premised on the fact that South Africa is a favorable destination to many foreign nationals or people from other countries. And obviously, you don't only attract people that are going to abide by the laws, but you're also going to attract those people that might find themselves, transgressing the laws. And obviously, the higher the number, the reason why you have got more South Africans is obviously because this is a country for the South Africans, so more should be South Africans. But once you've got a good number of foreign nationals living in South Africa, it therefore follows logically that a good number of foreigners as well is going to find themselves in prison.
Now, is there a link between undocumented immigration and crime, and how can this be addressed? I mean, in other words, is the majority or a huge percentage of those that are jumping the borders then going to engage in illegal activity?
Well, yes, there is a great likelihood that some of the people that are finding themselves in South Africa are fugitive from justice from their own countries as well. And obviously, when they come here, they find themselves, obviously doing what they know best, that is always to break the law. So the mere fact that, as we have said before, that South Africa finds itself in a dilemma that it is a landlocked country, in that it is surrounded, the greater length of its borders, has got Mozambique, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and then you've got, on the Botswana side as well. But you also have got Lesotho, which is within, South Africa and Swaziland. So what that means is that, you can imagine anyone can come in from any angle, from Lesotho and Swaziland, and then from other countries as well, people come through, the Zimbabwe border. And some of these people, as I've already said, they are undocumented and they are fugitives from justice. So they come here and they perpetuate their crime. And the mere fact that they have not been documented, makes it more difficult even to trust them.
So is this an opinion, or do we have actual statistics? Right? I mean, if we've got 22,000 foreign nationals that are in our prisons at the moment, how many of these are first-time offenders versus repeat offenders? Your statement would suggest that the multitude of these are repeat offenders, not necessarily here in South Africa, but could have committed crimes in their own countries.
Well, look, I think that's where the biggest dilemma is, that that kind of statistics is very difficult to come by, particularly from the fact that the Department of Home Affairs and the South African government has, it does not work with NGOs like ourselves, for example, in trying ordinarily, to get these people, in one way or the other documented. Because the issue of crime, we've been talking about this issue for quite a long time now. And one of our suggestions has always been that, look, we need some form of, we don't really need a documentation or something that does not legalize people, but that documents that this person is within the country or at some stage has come into the country, so that should that person even commit a crime, their fingerprints or biometrics are already captured. But for the fact that, our proposals, which at one stage, appeared to be, quite welcome, have not been implemented. And therefore, to find that kind of statistics, you only get to know that a person, for example, has committed a crime and undocumented once they are arrested, because you will find that if you look at the database, of people that have committed crimes and that have not been traced, there is a huge number of fingerprints that are with the, police fingerprint center, but they cannot tell who these fingerprints belong to, which means these are people that are not documented in any system.
Now, when we look at the demographic of these individuals and the crimes that they're imprisoned for, how many of these are petty crimes versus violent crimes, for instance?
Well, from what the minister was saying, the last time, obviously she says the bulk of these people that are in the prison, a lot of them are serious crimes. Of course, we know that there is a huge number of, people that are arrested for, immigration, cases. So the mere fact that we do not really have, that breakdown, because one of the biggest numbers that we have of people that are arrested, in the prison system are those people that are arrested for violating, migration, the Immigration Act. And as a result, you find that these people are sentenced for about 3, 6 months, 12 months, or they are still awaiting trial because somebody could be arrested and it could take them 5 to 6 months or even 12 months while they're waiting for their case to be finalized, especially if they do not have legal representation and they are not willing to plead, maybe because they are in asylum Africa, they really don't want to go back to their country, because we've got quite a good number of people that are in South Africa that cannot go back to their countries because they've got a legitimate fear, for their lives. So yes, there is a very big number. It's unfortunate that we do not have that kind of breakdown, but it was just by word of mouth to say some of these people are obviously have committed, serious offenses. And that information, to share that information, that would really shed some light.
Now, if we go back to the Stilfontein saga, where many of those individuals, the illegal miners that were mining underground, were foreign nationals, right? The amount of time it took from them to be brought to surface, taken care of by medical teams, handed over to police, and subsequently deported to their countries was relatively short. Should, in your view, Home Affairs do similar? I mean, if the issues around an overcrowded prison system, should there be policy that some of these individuals maybe should not go into prison for as long as they do, depending again on the nature of the crime, and be immediately deported to their countries? So, for instance, if an individual overstays their visa, for instance, should they be holed up for 3 to 6 months along with hardened criminals, or should they be immediately repatriated to their own country?
Well, look, we actually have got a case, Rahim versus Minister of Home Affairs, that actually dealt with that, quite simply, to say people that are arrested for immigration, crimes should not, be put in the same place with, obviously, the hardened criminals. And that would have been, a better, a posture maybe and position to be assumed by the department. But of course, because there's Section 49 that also criminalizes the mere fact that someone is in the country. So in a bid to try and, prohibit or try to discourage people to come in, then people are prosecuted first for Section 49, which will put them in the prison system, and then Section 34 that deals with the deportation. And that obviously does not alleviate or help, especially in terms of dealing with the overcrowding in the prison, but actually, cascades the problem. And then you also look at the fact that those people that were at Stilfontein, one, as much as they have to be charged with the crime of illegal immigration, then the state will obviously choose to charge them again with illegal mining. And that then compounds, the whole issue, so that the person, instead of facing one crime, they then face 2 crimes, which may actually lead to that person being charged on a Schedule 5, kind of an offense. And with the fact that they are, they don't have documentation. So their time frame, if they were to be taken to court, would obviously be an average of a year to more, just awaiting trial in order for it to be finalized. And that is why then you have got so many people. But if you look at it in the truest sense, you realize that these are just illegal immigrants, and these economic crimes that they are, arrested for, which is to try and survive with illegal mining, are not supposed to really, end up overburdening. The cost of ultimately keeping these prisoners in prison ends up becoming much higher than even the crime or the payment back to society in terms of keeping them in prison.
Dr. Sibanda, final thoughts. When you look at the number of foreign nationals that are in South Africa's prisons, how many of those, as a rough number or percentage, are who are then sent back, particularly those that have left their countries for economic reasons, return to South Africa?
Well, I would say, I think probably 90 to 100%, real find their way back to South Africa, because they've got nothing to go back to their countries. I mean, you can imagine the economic problems that, the bulk of these people come from. You've got a lot of these people coming from countries like the DRC, which is war-torn as we are talking. You've got people coming from Mozambique, which, as we know, has got the unrest that we have and the economic problems. We've got a huge number coming from Zimbabwe, where, the country doesn't even have a currency. You've got a huge number of these people coming from Lesotho, where the economy is not as good and, they can't really, sustain themselves there. You've got a lot of these people coming from Nigeria, where there's Boko Haram, and, we know how the president of Nigeria has been dealing with people, the crackdowns and so forth. And you've got people coming from Somalia, Ethiopia, and, Sudan, where there are war-torn countries, Uganda. So if you really say these people are sent back to go back to their countries, a very good number, a very high percentage, about 90% of those don't even get to their, supposed destination. They are, because they are taken mainly to the borders, they come back from there. Those that are taken to their countries, like, those coming from countries that have, stay a bit, especially because they don't have, the means to come back maybe so quickly. But the ones in the neighboring countries, a lot of them don't even reach their destination. They come back immediately.
Very, very interesting. Dr. Vusumuzi Sibanda, President of the African Diaspora Global Network, speaking to us around the 22,000 odd foreign nationals that are in South Africa's prisons. He argues that many of those individuals that are sent back to their countries after being deported barely make it to their intended destinations and are making the round trip back to South Africa.